Hey everyone, welcome back to Age and Education channel. Today we shall start with the chapter Components of Food. Food is made up of different chemical substances called nutrients. Nutrients are essential for our body to function properly, to support growth and provide energy. So what does the nutrients do? The nutrients will help us to have good growth, right? And the nutrients will provide us with energy and help all our body parts to function properly. Okay, so what are these nutrients? The nutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. So each of these nutrients has its own set of functions, right? So the carbohydrates and the fats will give us energy. So these are called as energy giving foods. And proteins will help in bodybuilding. So proteins are called as bodybuilding foods. And vitamins and minerals are the protective foods. They protect our body, give us immunity against the many diseases that may be caused because of the hostile foreign organisms. Okay, hostile or enemy foreign organisms. Okay, our body's defense system, what is it called? Defense system, okay, will get stronger if you have these protective foods. What are these protective foods? Yes, you will see, but you all know. You can consider the fruits and vegetables to be some of the protective foods, right? You will learn more about it in the next slide. Okay, so we shall look into carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the main source of energy for our food and are often referred to as energy suppliers. They are organic substances made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So what are carbohydrates made of? They are made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So if I have to get into some detail, then it would take this form, okay, like CnH2ON. So N means you can take any number. If you take 6, okay, so what will it become? C6, right? And H2O, again 6 put here. So if I have to get further into this, C6, H2O means 6 2s are how much? 12. And if there is nothing, it means one molecule of oxygen. So 1 into 6 would be O6. Okay, so C6H12O6 is a type of carbohydrate, right? So in general, what you can say here, there will be one molecule of carbohydrate, carbon, and 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen, right? And for the different number you give, it changes according to that ratio, right? So carbohydrates form the bulk of our diet, and examples include what? Rice, wheat, potatoes and bananas. Excess carbohydrates are stored in the body as what? Fats. So whenever you eat so much of food, like so much of carbohydrate food, then our body will say, no, I can't use all this energy now itself, so I will store it as fat, okay, so that this fat can be accessed or used by our body when we starve. It means that when we don't eat food for prolonged periods, then our body will resort to this fats for energy, okay. So our body will tap at this fat layer saying that please help me with the energy, I don't have energy, right? Okay, next is types of carbohydrates. So what are the types of carbohydrates? Simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. The simple carbohydrates get dissolved in water, but the complex carbohydrates won't get dissolved in water. So what is it? They get dissolved in water, okay. So we will get instant energy with this simple carbohydrates. What happens with this? Instant energy, right? Okay. So basic forms include what? Glucose, fructose. Fructose is found in fruits, and sucrose, that is found in the table sugar. And what are the sources of it? Fruits, honey, milk and processed sweets. Okay. Next is complex carbohydrates. What is it? Starches and fiber, made up of many sugar units providing sustained energy. So these starches, as said, these are complex carbohydrates. So they won't give you instant energy, no instant energy, but they give sustained energy. What is it? Sustained, right? So if you have to know the difference between instant energy and sustained energy, I can show you one thing. Like, see, if you eat something, okay, your energy peaks in a moment and just drops down. It's because everything is released in a moment. But if it is sustained energy that comes from the complex carbohydrates, then if you eat this much, what happens? The energy will gradually grow, okay, gradually be released, okay. And so what happens? You will have the sustained amount of energy for a longer time. Now see, here within 1 hour everything is gone, but here you can have for around 3 to 4 hours, right? So complex carbohydrates are definitely better than the simple carbohydrates, okay. So next is fiber. What is fiber? It aids in digestive health and is not digested. So the fiber is something that cannot be digested by our body, but it will help in digestion, okay. So it aids in the digestive health but is not digested. So what are the sources of it? Whole grains like oats, brown rice and whole wheat, all these are considered to be part of the complex carbohydrates. And even legumes, starchy vegetables like potatoes and corn, right? Next, what are the functions of the carbohydrates? So the functions are like, they are the energy source. This is well known. I need not get deeper into this, right? So these are the preferred source of energy and broken down into glucose for cell fuel. Okay, for what is the cell fuel? It is like even our body cells. Our body is made up of many cells, right? Each cell needs energy to work, to function, to do its work, right? Energy to function. So this energy you get through what? Yes, the food that we eat. So the carbohydrates act as energy source for what? For the cell to fuel itself, to get to work. Okay. Next is brain function. The brain relies on glucose for energy, essential for the cognitive function. Cognitive means relating to thinking. Okay. See, all this terminology, it is important that you start learning. Okay. Now you are 6th grade and you should know about all these terms. Okay. Cognitive means thinking. The brain relies on glucose for energy, essential for cognitive function. See, if you won't if you won't take any carbohydrate for longer amount of time, and if no glucose is supplied to your body, then what happens? Your thinking ability goes down. Okay, thinking capacity goes down. So that is the reason we say that you should keep eating, right? You should not starve yourself and you should keep giving some form of carbohydrate. And complex the carbohydrate, the better it is. Why? Yes, it is because the energy is released in a sustained manner. Okay. See, whenever I ask you some questions, okay, I give a pause, little pause, so that you have to think of the answer, right? So only if you answer to my questions, then your brain will start remembering the things. Okay. Next, digestive health. Fiber promotes regular bowel movements, right? As mentioned, this will be helpful for the digestive health. Okay, digestive health, the fiber is very important. So next is blood sugar regulation, important for stable energy levels. So blood sugar regulation, it is something related to the instant and sustained release of energy. What is it? Instant and sustained. As I have mentioned earlier, in instant energy foods like the simple carbohydrates, glucose, fructose and all these are not so good for your body, and these are essential only for your peak performance. Okay, and these should be used only when you need it. Okay, you should never over consume or be over dependent on these type of foods. Okay, instant energy giving foods like the simple carbohydrates, you should always prefer the complex carbohydrates that will help in the sustained release of energy, and these two are related to this blood sugar regulation. Okay, and I don't want you to get deeper into all this. Okay, it's just I have mentioned that the functions of carbohydrates would be energy source, brain function, digestive health, and blood sugar regulation. Okay, don't get deeper into this topic. This itself, instant and sustained thing itself, is a bit what do you call complex for you kids to understand. Okay, so even if you won't understand, there's no problem, but one thing you have to remember is that simple carbohydrates will give instant energy. Okay, and those are not so good, right, for our body, and they can be used only if you have the need of having your peak performance. Okay, and this sustained energy that is given by the complex carbohydrates are always good for your body. Okay, so what is the recommended intake? Guidelines are that 45 to 65% of the total daily calories should come from carbohydrates, focusing on whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and legumes. Okay, so what should you limit? You should limit the added sugars and the refined carbs. Okay, refined carbohydrates are like the carbohydrates, the complex carbohydrates that are that are refined in a way that they act like something like simpler carbohydrates, but not actually simpler. Okay, they get nearer to being simpler carbohydrates. Okay, and those are definitely not good for our body. Okay, and so carbohydrates here, should remember that the carbohydrates intake should be limited to 45 to 65% of our total daily calories. Okay, next, good versus bad carbohydrates. So what are the good carbohydrates? Whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes would be considered as the good carbohydrates. And what are the bad carbohydrates? Refined grains like white bread, and foods high in added sugars like soda and candy, right? So because of the addition of the simpler carbohydrates, all these type of carbohydrates will become bad carbs. Okay, it is because unknowingly itself we eat we get to eat so many sugars, right? So many sugars implies that so many simpler carbohydrates, and these are not at all good for your body, right? Next, testing for carbohydrates. So how do you know how much amount of carbohydrate is present in the body? Okay, there are some tests for all this. Okay, the first test is for the sugars. We use Benedict solution. Okay, when using this solution, if you heat and the color change indicates the amount of sugar present there. Okay, so if the color changes to green, it means that low amount of sugars are present. If it turns to yellow, medium, and if it is brick red, it means that the amount of sugar is high. Okay, so next is for starch. We use iodine solution, and a blue black color indicates the presence of starch. Okay, so these are the testing for carbohydrates, and as such it is a very important topic. Okay, for everything here, almost for everything we see a test. Okay, and you should remember the test, and it is very important for your Olympiads and for your overall understanding as how to test the presence of the nutrients in some food, right? So for the sugars it is different, and for the starch it is different. What are sugars? Sugars are the simple carbohydrates, and starch will be the complex carbohydrates, right? Next, fats. Fats are also known as what? Lipids. These are another energy giving component of food, often referred to as the body's energy banks. Why is it called bank? When we save something, we put that money in the bank, right? If you want to save something, you will put it in the bank. So in the same manner, our body will save the energy. It means whatever the carbohydrates, excess of carbohydrates we are eating, it is put in these banks, okay, as fats. So they are called as body's energy banks. They are the compounds of the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, right? Like how carbohydrates are the components of carbon, hydrogen, and like the compound of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. In the same manner, the fats are also the compounds of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But it provides more energy than the carbohydrates, right? And then what are the types of fats? Saturated fats, unsaturated fats, right? First of all, we will see into the saturated fats. Saturated fats, its structure will be, there will not be any double bonds between the carbon atoms. So animal products and some plant oils are the examples of this. What is the health impact? May rise the LDL cholesterol levels. So it is that saturated fats are considered to be bad fats. What is it? Bad fats. There are no double bonds between the carbon atoms. It means that, so you can't understand all this, right? No double bonds between the carbon atoms. But if at all I have considered including this aspect in your part is because I thought that maybe it may be of some use for your Olympiad exams or any competitive exams that you may take. Okay, so I thought it's better that you know about it. No double bonds between the carbon atoms. So it means that they can get bonded with okay, I don't want to get into that. Okay, so no double bonds between the carbon atoms. Next, sources. I have already mentioned it will be the animal products, and even some plant products like the coconut oil will have saturated fats, and they have the tendency to raise the LDL cholesterol levels. Okay, so it is very bad for our body. Next, unsaturated fats. So in this, monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats, right? So here you will have one double bond, and the sources would be olive oil, avocados and nuts. Health impact, generally heart healthy. What is it? They are generally heart healthy. Next, polyunsaturated fats have multiple double bonds. Okay, so these are about the what do you call saturated fats and unsaturated, and next we will see about the other type of fat. So next we shall look into trans fats. These are created through hydrogenation, wherein the liquid oils will be converted either into semi-solid or solid forms. Okay, and this is used mostly in semi-solid forms or in solid forms, and this you can see in processed foods, baked goods and margarine. And this is considered to be very bad. Okay, very bad, and the recommendation would be avoid it. Okay, because it is linked to the heart disease. Okay, what are the functions of the fats? What are the functions as such? Just think of it. It would be an energy storage, right? This you all know. And next, insulation and protection. See, in some animals we spoke, right? They will have blubber. Yes or no? Do you remember that? Blubber in animals like walrus, polar bears, which are in the polar areas for protection from the cold climate, extreme cold climate. Their body will have blubber, a fatty layer. Okay, so for the insulation and protection, they will insulate the body and also they protect the organs, right? The fat will give a cushion effect so that our organs inside are safe in the case of some impact. Okay, cell structure, essential components of the cell membrane. So fat is also very important for the cell structure, and this will help in the nutrient absorption. See, if you consider the vitamins can be classified into two types. Okay, you will see anyways later in the later section, but I will just give a gist of it so that you can understand this concept of nutrient absorption. So vitamins are categorized into water soluble vitamins and fat soluble vitamins. What is it? Water soluble and fat soluble. So these fat soluble vitamins, for our body to actually use these fat soluble vitamins, they need fat, right? So what are these fat soluble vitamins? Vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E and vitamin K. Okay, so how much amount of fat these vitamins you take, until and unless your body has enough fat, okay, these won't get absorbed properly. So your body will need fat to actually use all these vitamins. Okay, so vitamins are the protective foods, and these protective foods, to give us actual protection, you need the fat. So that important is fat, but too much fat is also not good. Okay, the fat, the what do you call, the fat that is essential is needed. Okay, essential for all these functions to be provided is good, but if it goes beyond the required level, then it is bad for our body, right?